It turns shadows into threats, uncertainty into danger, silence into abandonment. It teaches you to prepare for storms even when the sky is clear, and it makes you brace for the worst even when nothing is wrong. Trauma is not who you are, it's how your body learned to survive. And while most people think of trauma as the big things, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the car crash, the moment that changed you, trauma can also be the little things, the silent inconsistencies, the feeling of safety that was simply absent, and the moment you felt like you had to hold yourself together when you were too young to know how. So today we're diving into what trauma is really, the science and the brain chemistry behind it, as well as some ways that we can heal. Everything we do is fueled by our desire to learn and grow, because we believe that what we seek is also seeking us. I haven't done that in so long. That was really nerve-wracking.
Yeah, but it's good. I watch you. You have that like news anchor in you.
I got really nervous.
I like it.
Okay, I was trying to like,
No, you do this so well.
Thank you. You look beautiful.
Thank you, you too.
So we're quite happy considering the topic we're about to dive into.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Let's get into it.
All right, pull out the iPad. Let's go.
Bam.
So before we begin the episode, just to give a little context, I think it's important. I want to start this episode personally by saying, even when we were going to do this episode, I think I was like a little bit conflicted because initially we wanted to talk about what healing is. And then I was like, I don't feel like I'm well adapted to talk about healing because I'm still in a place where I feel like my trauma and triggers still activate me. And so like when we come at this episode, like it's coming from a place of authenticity. It's not coming from a place of like, we're educating you on what trauma is. It's like, we want to understand it better because I think when you know what it is, that's how you can learn and heal from it.
I had a professor and like a teacher, and he was our principal. So when our math teacher would be gone, he would come and he would be the replacement teacher for mathematics. And he would teach us in such a really nice way. And like, I remember one time he wanted to tell us like how to take care of equations. And he was like, kind of like stripping, not in an appropriate way, but he was like taking off his tie. And he was like, when you want to do this equation and when you want to take care of it, you have to first take off your tie and then take off your shirt and then take off your vest. And he would just teach us and he would give us examples that we could use and remember with imagery when it came to the exams. And then we asked him, we're like, how are you such a good teacher? Like whatever you teach us, we remember. And he was like, I used to teach mentally disabled or challenged kids. And the method I use for them is the method I use for you guys. And it really worked well for us because I'm the type of person that when I want to understand a bigger picture, I have to first strip it down. And I feel like because we wanted to talk about healing, because every episode, we don't choose these as at random. It's like we're going through something and then we're chat GPTing, like what's healing, what's this? And we do research to try to like better ourselves. And then we come to the conclusion of like what episode we should do. And we wanted to do healing because we were both in a place that needed healing. And we're like, we can't heal if you don't know what it is we're healing. So let's dive into what trauma is. Are we actually traumatized or not? And that's where the question arose. So now arose is correct, right?
Yeah, girl.
Vocabulary. And then we can like now dive into that because to understand trauma better. Because last night we had a conversation about our personal lives and like the traumas that we are going through.
Let me just say that, like, Yasmin, yesterday I called her. We were actually talking about the episode initially. She was sharing some of her thoughts and I was sharing some of mine. And I was like, well, actually, no, I do think I'm experiencing trauma. Let me tell you why. And I kind of just like divulged to her like a bunch of the stuff that I've been struggling with. Even sometimes when you're in a safe environment, I think sometimes it's important to note that your nervous system can feel safe in unsafe situations. So if you grew up in a dysregulated environment in a home that was loving, but at times inconsistent, your nervous system doesn't know how to respond in predictable situations. So even safety can feel really scary and really overwhelming, and you don't know what to do with it. So you're almost like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop constantly. Like everything is peaceful, everything is good. And you're like, wait a minute, why is it so quiet right now? What's wrong? And your brain constantly scans for danger. And sometimes it makes up danger when there is none. And I feel like, that's what I've been doing a little bit lately.
Okay, I like that. I wanted us to dress in black because I do think that trauma is considered to be a negative thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's when you're exposed to a negative environment. So we start with a darker color that's black. And I feel like as we're going to do the next 4 episodes, we should start lighting it up because we're going to understand what trauma is and then remove the darkness from the light so that we can get to the healing. And I think one of the most important things, like last night I called her, she was like, I want to do trauma and healing together. I was like, they're not the same thing. You can't jump from trauma to healing. We have to first do I feel like trauma and stress go better together.
Yeah.
Because it all starts with stress and then it starts elevating itself into trauma. So I did a little bit of research on stress. And stress is, in small dosages, stress is really good for us. Okay? And according to my research, a little dose of stress sharpens your brain. It helps you study. It helps you get your tasks done. And it increases
Say it. You could say it.
Norepinephrine.
Yeah.
Norepinephrine.
It's just a tongue twister. It's one of those words like I don't understand who made it.
Zac Efron?
Zac Efron.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it increases your Zac Efron, which is a neurotransmitter, improving focus and memory. It gives you a quick burst of stress boost to boost your immune system. And then also, when you're stressed and then you complete, like, let's say you have homework or like an assignment and you complete the task because of the stress that you're feeling, the anxiety, you feel more accomplished afterwards. So it's a very good like thing to like tick off and like it's good to keep you on track. And that's called Eurostress. The scientific word for good stress is Eurostress.
Okay.
When it starts becoming too much, and your body and your nervous system is shifting, and you're going from your cognitive thinking to fight or flight, okay? It's called chronic stress. And that's like, it's more repetitive. So your cortisol remains high at a constant. You have, it starts affecting your sleep and digestion and hormone disruption, and it starts to get worsened. There is a tipping point for it. For stress, for Eurostress, there's a tipping point where it becomes chronic stress. And then there is when it's at an all-time high and a constant, it becomes trauma. Okay, so it's important to know, good stress in small dosages is very healthy for you. It's called Eurostress. When it starts getting more and it happens more often, it's chronic stress. And then when it reaches an all-time high where there's a tipping point, it starts tipping towards your trauma.
Yeah.
So when cognitive structure goes from that, so your cognitive assessment, when it becomes fight or flight, you go from thinking to surviving. That's when you are traumatized. So there's 3 steps to it: stress, Eurostress, cognitive stress, and then trauma.
I like that you made that distinction because, you know, for a lot of people, when they think of trauma, people think of trauma as one big event, one negative thing that happens. But actually, trauma can be many small things built up over time. And trauma often has less to do with like the event itself, and it's more about how your body responds to it. And I think we actually touched on this yesterday. 2 people can go through the exact same experience. They can have the exact same upbringing, but one person can come out traumatized and one person can be completely fine. And because it's not about the experience itself, it's about how your body learned to respond and how your nervous system learned to cope. So you're right. So for a lot of people, when they're put in stressful situations, they can thrive under that stress. Even a stressful job, for a lot of people, they love it because that thrill keeps them going and it keeps them like that momentum high, like, ooh, I'm achieving things. And you put someone else, even if it's a job, you put them in that exact same situation and they can crumble. And it has less to do with the experience itself and a lot more to do with how your nervous system like actually responds to it. And the American Psychological Association defines trauma as an emotional response to a terrible event that overwhelms an individual's ability to cope. So So to your point, like once that stress is at a high, like it's at a peak where it surpasses anything your body can physically carry, that's when it turns into trauma. And I think for me, like trauma is an interesting word because for a lot of people, I think some people can have the tendency to think that just because they were, they grew up in a very like loving household or a seemingly safe environment, that they didn't experience any form of trauma. But when we think of trauma, even like small inconsistencies when you're a child, your body can become dysregulated because of them over time. So like if you grew up in a household where you received love, but let's say your parents constantly fought, or you grew up in an environment where, your parents were a little bit unpredictable, like one day they were really kind, the next day they weren't, or parents that were not supportive, even small things can dysregulate your nervous system. And I think for me, the way that I define trauma is a dysregulated nervous system.
Okay. But again, like just like I called you last night, look, chronic stress, these are the signs, what it looks like scientifically, and then examples of like situations that are considered chronic stress. Okay, so chronic stress by definition is a prolonged activation of the stress response. The body stays alert for too long. Okay, so what it looks like scientifically, cortisol remains high, sleep, digestion, and hormones are disturbed. So you might start getting acne around your face, in the hormonal areas, not where like you sleep with your pillow. The amygdala becomes more reactive. The brain's limbic system, it changes your emotions. Like because let's explain what amygdala is.
I'm gonna go into it. I have like a full breakdown of it, the whole limbic system and how it responds.
Okay, so it does affect your amygdala. So both trauma and chronic stress affect the amygdala, and then you would have to explain what amygdala is because sometimes people don't know.
Yeah.
So then you have the your prefrontal cortex also becomes less efficient. Inflammation increases. And then the body struggles to return to balance. Yes. That's important as well when it comes to trauma. Here are some examples. Living in a tense or unpredictable home, ongoing financial pressure, click, 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 constant deadlines, click, 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 work, emotional neglect, high conflict environments. So a lot of us, when we say, oh my God, my childhood was traumatizing, we are noticing these things because we're in a constant stress full situation, but it's not trauma. It's not PTSD.
Yeah.
And I have this thing, I don't like the youth. I love the fact that we are becoming more aware and that we're teaching one another, and there's so much information out there. There's so many people doing really God's work, educating us about ourselves. But I don't like people throwing words around and self-diagnosing in such big terminology when it's actually not that. So I don't like kids going around and being like, oh, I'm traumatized. No, a Vietnam soldier who has PTSD is traumatized. You have chronic stress with doing yoga and this and that, and you can self-regulate your system. You have to diagnose correctly and then take the help and the dosage of help that you need so that you can self-regulate and learn how to do that. So I don't like, I think like we talk about this and we use the word trauma, even us.
Yeah.
But I don't like that. I don't like telling myself and repeatedly bringing myself to the past, because that's what trauma is, getting stuck in that past.
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's very true. We talked about that on the episode on fear. So we said trauma is fear frozen in time.
In time.
Because your hippocampus, which is responsible for memory and context, goes offline. So your body feels like it's constantly reliving that state. And that's very much so for people that have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, here's the nuance that I think that we miss. I think for a lot of people, labeling things can be very helpful, right? You put a label on it because once you know what it is, you're able to better identify how to recover from it. So right now, if I say, I have an eating disorder, I'm bulimic, and I know what it is, I then am able to then categorize, okay, these are the steps I need to do in order to get better. And I think trauma is a little bit similar to that, in that sense of like, for a lot of people, knowing that maybe what they've experienced was a little bit abnormal or even unhealthy, to a certain extent, it can make them feel more empowered. Like for me, for example, I grew up with the most loving parents in the most amazing home. But as you know, like with any family, like there was conflict at home. Like my parents did fight, right? And I can say that. Like, they loved each other, they loved us, but there was conflict at home. It wasn't like a perfect fairyland. And that conflict to a young child is still scary. And so it still dysregulates your nervous system. So it still teaches you as an adult that you sometimes have to brace for the worst. Like, for me, for example, I've noticed in my own life, like when things are going really well, my brain is constantly scanning my environment, looking for potential threats. I'm always looking for, okay, like everything's good right now. I feel really good, but what if I don't feel good tomorrow? And I think that type of dysregulation is really unhealthy because compounded over time, it makes you feel like you're emotionally unsafe. You're emotionally unsafe in your own life and in your own hands. It's because you can't trust yourself to come back to a state of calm. And I think that's what trauma is to me. You're right that it's not right for us to use words like, I'm so traumatized, just like, and throw them around like they mean nothing, because words have energy and they have power. But it's also important to note that you don't have to undermine the things you've experienced, because I think for me in my own life and my own healing journey, I've always been faced with this question of like, what did I even go through that was that bad for me to turn out like this? And I think that is really bad because I'm not giving myself any grace.
Yeah.
So there's a fine line, but I do agree with you.
I understand what you're saying, because to me, there is no comparative suffering. And I don't like it when people who do not deal with any emotional regulation tell you not to feel at all and that your problems are not problems at all. That is disingenuous, and like it's almost putting like a lid on top of the pot so that it just stays there because nobody wants to deal with it. It's good to look at it and try to better it, but it's also not good when you over exaggerate it, because even though like I've also been through so much, I do think that it's stress and it's not trauma, because I can snap out of it really fast. Like, for example, if I know that if I'm going home, there might be something, and I might get stressed about it because it's a repetitive behavior that I can almost predict, and it's become so predictable and a part of my life that I'm like, okay, I know when I call, I'm gonna get this kind of a response, and it's giving me anxiety. But at the same time, when I call and it's not like that, I snap out of it. But with trauma, you stay in the past. You're constantly like, and when people try to reassure you, you can't believe that that's not going to be the ultimate fate. You know what I mean?
It's very true. It's like you get very stuck. Like, it's literally that fear is frozen and you feel like you're constantly reliving it. And I think if we want to get into it, like, we can talk more about like the limbic system and what actually happens in the brain and the body, because I think it's actually fascinating how even when we think of traumatic events, the reason why people carry that trauma with them is counterintuitively, your body is just trying to protect you. It's trying to brace you for constant danger because it wants you to be safe. But ironically, that same part of you that is seeking safety is the same part of you that's making you feel so unsafe and constantly on the lookout for danger. But I think it's important to give your mind and your body grace, because it's just trying to protect you. And it's trying to protect you in the only way it knows how, which is by triggering that fight or flight response.
Yeah.
So we can like go into
one
that.
of the funniest things, like my parents are so like lovable, and like all of our friends just like love my dad, okay? But for me, I'm like, this kind of like this behavior of his stresses me out, okay? And my friend, I remember one time like sitting there complaining, I'm like, I really can't do it with my family anymore, blah blah blah. And like, I don't like this behavior because I've been so exposed to it that I notice it and I don't like it, you know? I don't want it around me, it stresses me out. And my friend literally looked at me and she was like, I've been molested. And like the way she came at me, I was like, and then she started telling me all the stories. I was like, oh my God, I have it good. And I don't like that because it's comparative suffering. Yeah. It's like, okay, I understand you went through this, but this to me was also traumatizing.
Yeah.
Now, again, it's not trauma, but when you're using it in like a normal conversation, you have to throw big words around so people understand that you are actually having a hard time dealing with this.
Yeah.
But between us two, it wasn't trauma. It's just stressful to be around people that are unpredictable, that are too on edge all the time. And it's like almost like a cycle because they carried it from people before them. And it's hard to be a cycle ender or like a cycle breaker because you have to identify the problem and then break it. But with a lot of people, they just like, they keep comparative suffering. Like, oh, you're suffering, I'm suffering more. It's like, okay, you win. What do you want me to tell you?
That's why we have the word trauma dumping.
Trauma dumping?
Have you never heard that when people are like, I'm just out, like they'll be like, they'll say something really bad stuff and they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm trauma dumping on you.
Okay, but what does that have to do with like, what is it called when like you say something and they're like, yeah, but I had it worse?
Comparative suffering is a good word. And that's also just, I think a lot of people do it to make themselves feel better. Again, counterintuitively, it's like, oh my God, do you think that's bad? Let me tell you what I went through so that they feel like the attention is back on them.
Or they're trying to like calm you by sharing their own trauma. But the thing is, that does nothing because you're just oversharing and you're not actually getting to, you're not good enough of a listener to listen, identify the problem, and diagnose me with the right ingredients. Because now you are just dumping information at me, and I feel like maybe that's what trauma dumping is. Because now I have too much information, and it's like, okay, do I diagnose you or me? Yeah. Because we both seem to be in the same like lunatic home. What do you call it? Like a crazy house?
Bin.
Loony bin?
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah. No, it's actually true. And I think a lot of people do it. Like, I don't know. Sometimes people, and there's also trauma bonding. Like some people do it to like connect with people. A lot of people connect through their pain and suffering.
I don't like that. I don't like connecting with people through gossip. I don't like connecting with people through trauma. I don't like connecting with people over negative behaviors that I see are ancestral trauma. I want to break free of all of those things, and I want to find friends who represent the highest version of me so that I can become the highest version of me. If I'm constantly referring to things in the past, I become just like, I become the version of myself that I'm trying to get rid of. Yeah. So I like to grow, and I don't like bonding over trauma. Like I see a lot of people online. There is this like thing, I don't know if you noticed this. You know how like people really love it when like on TikTok or like social media, you are like hitting your siblings. You know, like Bretman Rock, and like he's always like throwing things at his sister, or like friends that are ratchet and they're like, you're a B, and they throw around the B word at each other. And I'm like, you are what you say, you are what you eat, you know, and those words you're eating. And then the fact that you guys are bonding from a place of bullying one another, I don't like that kind of friendships, and it's not for me. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but it's like you align with what you are energetically. So if you think about it, and actually I learned this week, when people think of like frequencies and vibrations, like for example, love, gratitude, healing, they often think of them at one on top of the other. But when you actually think of energy, it goes like this, right? So they're vibrating on this frequency. And so if you're on this frequency and they're on this frequency, you're not on the same frequency, you don't align with them. But those people that are, you know, bonding over, you know, being mean to each other or bullying one another, they're vibrating on the same frequency. So there's only this way that
but most people resonate with that because they become very popular, those people.
They resonate with it because I think of how shocking it is. I think to a lot of people, and I think this is like a fault of our generation, I think things that were, you know, taboo in the past are so normalized today that the shock value of it, the fact that, you know, I can run around a supermarket calling my best friend B, that it's shocking, and you're like, you want to watch more, and it probably releases a bit of dopamine and it thrills people.
Also, a lot of people connect with it because it resonates with them because they used to live at that state before. Yeah. So it's like, oh, I throw things at my sister. Like we all have fights with our sisters and whatever. So we resonate with that. So that becomes most popular. But I don't like to keep watching that because it reminds me of something that I went through, and I no longer want to resonate with it. So I'd rather like start exposing myself to things that I want to like learn from rather than what I used to relate to in the past.
Which I think it's powerful, but that's also because you're operating from a higher, more healed place. I think for a lot of people, and again, I know like obviously you're talking about trauma, even if they haven't experienced extremely traumatic things, most people in a day-to-day world are operating from a place of trauma. They are operating from all the places that they have been hurt, all the places where they have been vulnerable, all the places where they feel exposed. And as a result, you have people that are, have these chauvinistic, really big egos, people that are narcissists, people that are also stuck in fawn responses, which is like being overly nice and people pleasing. There is so much trauma that exists around us, and people don't realize that. I think, I don't want to say 80% of the time, but a large majority and a large percentage of the time, people are attracting what they attract because of their trauma and because of the beliefs that resulted because of those experiences.
But also, I feel like as like the masses should become more alert to this, because one of the things that I really dislike, in my own personal opinion, like for example, you know that girl Huda from like Love Island?
Yeah.
So she became so popular and I started watching, and remember I told you I don't watch because it's just so ratchet. It just like riles me up for no reason. And I don't like watching stuff like this, not because I'm too good for it, but like I just really don't resonate with it, and it stresses me out, to be frank.
Yeah.
So I started watching this Huda girl, and I could, from watching her, and I watched like clips of her, I could, from just watching her, understand that she came from a background, I'm assuming, but this is my impression of her. She came from a background where she came from an immigrant family of an Arab home where they were constantly fighting with one another and they were trauma bonding, and their love language was fighting. You know how like a lot of Eastern people, we say like, oh, if I fight with you, that means I care for you. So that's ancestral trauma. It's like a belief system that's passed on to those people, thinking that if they love somebody, they should fight for them. They should fight for what they think is right. And so she was fighting, and you could literally see her like say something about somebody and 2 minutes later make up with them. She used to be like, oh, this girl is such a bee. And then 2 minutes later, she was like all lovey-dovey with them, because they come immigrant families, like because of not having anyone else around them, they constantly fight and make up because there's nobody else that they can be around, because they might not speak the same language. They might be outcast in the place that they live. So she would do this and then keep going back. And then she had a lot of traumas that I could tell are coming from her family. And the fact that she became the most popular and she was so beloved by so many people tells me what's wrong with our societies, because people who behave in behaviors that we resonate with the worst version of ourselves, we make most popular. Like people who should not be getting the attention, like what people should have done is shun her just a little bit so that she learns to go to therapy, so that she doesn't, because there were 3 men constantly she hurt like right after another. And what the world instead did was applaud her, because they connected with her from a place of low resonance. Oh, we are ratchet, or we do things like this. I don't want to use the word ratchet, but we are the type of people who are unhealed. So we're going to support her. And they would come after anybody who would be like, no, she was actually really toxic. She was called Hurricane, like a storm. Like, you know that Cartoon Network thing, the guy that becomes a storm? And even men around her felt unsafe because it was so aggressive, so unpredictable. And it was kind of igniting this stressful situation for everyone who was there. And they were all youthful people, like they're all the youth, And then as a result, everybody was like constantly supporting her. And they were like, no, don't say anything about her. You're jealous. If you speak up about this type of behavior, you're jealous. There's nothing wrong with her. You are just too jealous to see how beautiful she is. You know what I mean?
I think you're so right to bring this up, because I think people, like, for example, behavior where people are really unhinged, they just do the craziest, the most wrong thing. You're right.
Is most applauded.
Yeah, they get the most applauded. And you're right, because even with Huda now, I think the proof is kind of in what has already happened, is that all of these same people that now loved her, there was obviously, did you see recently there was like
Huda Beauty?
No, so basically Huda, Love Island Huda had posted a live video where someone had said a racial slur about Olandria, and then Huda and her boyfriend started laughing. And obviously now everyone has started to flip on her, and they're like, oh, she's racist.
But I don't agree with what Huda Beauty did either, because I feel like her response, when someone is exposed to that level of trauma, obviously they don't know how to react to things. So her reaction was a self-defense mechanism in laughing about something. Like,
yeah,
she
but
just
let's not go into, but like,
Yeah.
the point that I'm trying to make with that is like the same people who are now defending her are also now hating her. So I think it is interesting. I do think like pop culture really glorifies the worst behavior. And then the people that are like that, and I think because cancel culture is so big, they end up getting themselves canceled.
But what should have happened is that right off the bat, instead of using her popularity in the moment to make even more money, what people should have done is say, no, we don't want to associate with this type of behavior, so we don't want her to be the face of any of our brands. The thing is, these people didn't do enough research. Or if I'm just a viewer and I'm watching this and immediately I notice these things about her, I'm not even a fan of the show, I don't even know what's happening. One look and I could immediately tell with my level of emotional intelligence that this girl has a lot of trauma. As a result, I don't want to be associated with her. So for brands to use her in the moment of popularity and then drop her when they've made the cash, it's also the wrong thing to do. We want to live in a society where right off the bat we say, no, please see some help. We love you. You're still beautiful. You're youthful. Take care of your daughter and do 1, 2, 3. And then when you're healed, we'll welcome you with open arms. But instead, what happens is that those people become really popular, and that kind of behavior constantly gets repeated. And then the rest of us who are healers, what we do, there's this terminology, stress and stressors. Stressors become the most popular. And some people fall in love with the stresses because they're like, oh, drama. There is more to like love, right? It's spicy. But like, I don't think that should be the way people who are calmer and nicer and more I don't know if educated is the wrong word. Those people should be promoted, not the other way around.
100% agree with you. It's just, you should be praised for kindness. Do you have a issue?
Let's get into your stuff.
So when we're talking about trauma,
I'm sorry, I'm shaking. Like, this makes me
angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's wrong.
It's
I
wrong.
get you, because it's like people resonate with the wrong values.
Yeah.
And we praise the wrong things.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. That comes from operating from an unhealed place. When you are resonating with low frequencies or negative behavior, you are operating from an unhealed place.
And a lot of people, instead of taking a moment to heal, are benefiting from that, but then they play the heroes. Yeah. And I don't like that. I feel like when somebody's wrong, stay away from them, and then, you know what I mean?
I will not say anything, but I agree.
Okay, go on. Tell me about your thing, because I really want to know about your amygdala thing and your trauma. Okay, go on.
All right, so when we talk about trauma, we said this in the last episode.
I'm going to say my zikr so I calm down, okay?
So in the last episode when we talked about fear, we said trauma is fear frozen in time. But what does that actually mean? So trauma is not created by an event. It's created by how your body responds to it. And that response that you have is driven by 2 key systems. You have your limbic system and you have your nervous system. And I'm going to separate them into 2 things because they're deeply linked. But the way and the easiest way to think about it is the limbic system is like the command center in your brain, okay? And the nervous system is like the army that carries out the response. So the limbic system is like what detects that something is wrong. It sounds the alarm. And then the nervous system is flooding your body with so many hormones, and it's being like, it's time to run, get out of here. This is unsafe. So if we look at the limbic system, it consists of 3 key players. You have your amygdala. Your amygdala is what we call your smoke alarm system. It's your threat detection system. It's the part of your brain that is constantly scanning and looking for danger. And once it notices that danger, it sounds an alarm, right? And it's like, girl, you got to get out of here, like run. So it's trying to protect you, but it's signaling that something is wrong, right? So it's threat detection. And then once it detects a threat, it will then go trigger your hypothalamus, okay? Your hypothalamus is the command center in your brain. And your hypothalamus is what then triggers your nervous system. So it's like, if you want to think about it, again, like I just researched this myself. I don't know fully enough the parts of the brain to like dissect it. But essentially the way you think about it is the hypothalamus is then triggering your nervous system in your body, and it's flooding your body with all of those hormones, and it's triggering your fight, flight, fawn, or freeze response, right? So it's basically what it's doing is it's flooding your body with adrenaline and cortisol. It's increasing your heartbeat. This is what your nervous system is doing. It's allowing you to tense the muscles. It's creating shallow breathing. It's giving you the sense of hypervigilance, like your heart is like really beating fast. Right now, the response that you have in your body, what you're feeling, that is your nervous system being fired. Because
It's crazy because, like, honestly, I feel like just talking about it, that's why I don't like talking about it and trauma bonding, because just talking about it. I remember when I told you there was a girl who messaged me and she was like, when you speak, there's so much anger in your voice. It's because I come from a background where I was the only one who wanted to heal and break chains, and people in my family members who just swept things under the rug and moved on were applauded because they were labeled as not the drama makers. Like, I was a drama maker because I would acknowledge something and be like, I think this is wrong and it shouldn't keep happening. And because I was the only person healing or wanting to improve myself in a family there was too many people against me. You know what I mean? Like, I was the black sheep of the family because I was the only one who wanted to heal. And they were more of a, what's wrong with you? Like, why do you keep referring to the past? I was like, we have to heal this so that we can have a blank page to rewrite things on. And you keep repeating cycles and then making up like nothing happened, and like it's just piling up, and I can't do this anymore. So when I see that the world like is also just like those family members, or that's their mentality, it makes me want to isolate even further. And I'm already an INFJ, and I'm already a hermit, and like, look at me like shaking and stuff.
yeah, because it triggered you. Do you know?
So do you think I'm chronically stressed, or am I traumatized?
Well, look, this is exactly what trauma is, right? Trauma is when you're in a situation right now, we're safe, right? There's no danger in front of us, but you just got deeply triggered.
And I want to cry.
Because it touched. It's okay. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay, but it's just like, it's like repeatedly, like, people say wise things and they want to show that they are the people who are better than the masses. Like, you know how there's individuals like who say that they're the leaders of this new age, but they're really, when you look into it, they're also not the people. And I feel like it's so unsafe because, like, who you can't tell like who's actually good, who's actually genuine, what's really happening. There's so much trauma and there's so much more even happening. And as a generation, I already had to deal with so much of my own ancestral trauma that I had to break loose from. And then now there is a whole new range, like age of like war and things happening, and I just feel overwhelmed with so much because I know with what was done recently, we have to go another 400, 500 years just erasing, just trying to heal the events of today. And I feel like me trying to even do my own family's like dirty laundry and like trying to clean that laundry,
It's hard enough.
it's hard enough. Imagine, you know what I mean?
I think this is the way I see it.
I just feel lonely.
I know, but this is the way I see it. I think each individual has a responsibility, and it is a responsibility that we are all born with, is to work on ourselves, right? To work and heal ourselves first. And then we look at the things that are happening around us. It's like when you're in an airplane and the airbag falls, what do they say? You put an airbag on yourself first, and then you help the person next to you. Because if you're still in a state where you're constantly stressed and triggered, you're not able to help those around you. And I think it is sad what's happening in the world. And actually, before we started on this episode, I did want to touch on that. Obviously, like, we're talking about day-to-day traumas, but there are extremely traumatic events happening all across the world now, in Sudan, in Palestine. Like, the world that around us as we know it is crumbling and falling apart, and people are going through things that are horrific, like things that like we think like, oh, we had a bad childhood, like you know.
Yeah.
So I think like obviously it's important, and again, we're not comparing suffering, but that's important to note that like the world right now is operating on such a massive scale, on such an unhealed level. There's a lot of, for lack of a better word, I think just demonic energy.
Yeah.
Just everywhere, in every corner of the world. And I think
it's becoming Jahannam, like.
Yeah. And I think the best thing that you can do is to choose kindness, and it's to choose to better yourself. Because
take a look in the mirror and start with yourself when it comes to change. Yeah. And then change yourself, and hopefully as a result, a domino effect will happen where like everyone gets there. So we don't have enough time. So go back to your
No,
thing.
I feel like I don't even, no, it's not about time because I feel like this is something that's more important. Like we can have a connect. This is like to me way more important than, you know, reading about what the nervous system is or what happens because this is actual like trauma in action. And when you spot something like this is where healing happens because you're understanding what your trigger is. And your trigger, I know you, like, and I know your heart, and I know your trigger is injustice and inequality because it's something you've experienced in your own life. And so when you see it happening on such a large scale, it shakes something inside you.
Also, what's the word of like being like silent for too long?
Yeah, you were silenced.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now you have a voice, you have a podcast mic.
Yeah, but
I'm
like, what? It's like the shoes I'm trying to like fit into them because it's very hard for me. Like I have a lot of belief systems against like speaking because like it's like don't say anything, like don't make more trouble for us. You know what I mean? Like it's just I don't know.
But you see, this is what I'm trying to say is like you being here right now, even though it's uncomfortable and even though it's difficult for you, you have so many beliefs that have built up over the years that have told you you're not allowed to speak, you shouldn't be doing this, your voice doesn't matter. And yet here you are in a podcast room with a mic in front of you speaking. Like, do you see how powerful
I hope I can get
that is?
better about it, and I hope I can better myself doing this. But like, I feel like we should do another episode because I do want to talk about ancestral trauma and like belief systems that were passed on through generations.
So we're good. We're gonna get there. I was actually gonna ask you what ancestral trauma is.
It's funny because last night you called me. I was like, I just have chronic stress. I don't have trauma. I don't want to resonate with that. And then you called me and you were like, no, Yasmin, I have trauma. And you were like crying.
I feel like we switched. I thought I was gonna cry today. By the way, I didn't think.
Let me tell you one thing about myself. I become the brave heart when other people are in danger. Suddenly, I'm like Superwoman. I like lift this and I'm like, no, see your worth. But then when it comes to me, I think maybe to a degree I do brush it off because it's so much like a lot has also happened to me. I don't want to do comparative suffering, but I've had my own share of stuff. And I feel like it does affect me. And like right now I didn't expect like talking about this like Love Island girl for me to go on this tantrum like and like just feel irregulated. But like I feel like I resonate with her. The old me resonates with her. It's just that she's unhealed and the world is pumping her up. Instead, they should take a step back and tell her to ask her to like heal. And I polite, not, you know what I mean? Like if you don't give people attention and they realize that they're wrong, they'll just do that on their own. You don't even have to say anything to them.
But I think everything, the beauty of the world we live in is I do believe that everything always falls back into a place of equilibrium. So she had her moment.
What does that mean?
Equilibrium is balance.
Okay.
Right?
Equilibrium?
Equilibrium.
Zac Efron,
exactly. So like everything will fall back into equilibrium at some point. Like right now, she had her moment of fame and it has come crashing down. Guess what? She's probably going to be in a low place. And this is the time where she needs to heal. I think even when people think of the word healing, they think of it in such grand and lofty terms of like, you're going to go on a spiritual retreat and a spiritual journey. No, in order to heal, sometimes you need to just hit your lowest point and decide that this is not what you want for yourself anymore. It's just making that conscious decision. And then it's regulating your nervous system and showing your body that it's actually safe to live in a new reality. That's when healing happens. It's through regulating your nervous system and not just your mind. Like you can't rationalize yourself out of a fear response because your body doesn't know that language. It just knows that it's trying to keep you alive. It's trying to survive. But what you can do is you can learn how to regulate yourself, slowing your breathing. For example, even right now, because you feel anxious, if you exhale for longer than you inhale, it activates your parasympathetic nervous system. So it will calm you down.
But I also think it's not fair to hype people up, let them climb these pedestals. So when they fall even harder. Because, you know, like a lot of people enjoy watching people's failures. And they don't admit that. But what they're doing with their actions is hyping somebody up and setting the ladder so that they can go up there and jump off it and hurt themselves even harder. What should have happened is that people shouldn't have bullied one group of people over the other play into the whole racism thing. And you know what I mean? It's just people are so unaware and they add to people's traumas even more. And I feel like the entire thing, the entire system is so fraud, because what is a TV show where you put a bunch of like 20-year-olds in environments where it's so traumatizing, just exaggerating their pain, and for the rest of us to watch with popcorn and pass judgment like we're better than them, and then people being so like people going in comment section and attacking another group of people who are saying no, she should heal, and like attacking them and being like, oh yeah, you're jealous of that person, that's why you're saying these things, because if that person has to heal, they have to heal. And because they don't want to admit that, they would rather go and comment things fighting amongst one another when they're both wrong.
But that's a form of deflection, right? So if you think about it, like in human, if we take this as a model of human behavior, that's what people do when they are operating from trauma. They're not able to look in the mirror. It's easier to look at someone else, to attack someone else, than to take accountability for your own actions and own life, because it's so much easier to be the victim than to be the person who actually changes.
Yeah.
And that is the real truth.
I just want to stay away from all of them. I don't want to watch the stuff. I don't want to talk to them. I've never left a comment in my life.
But that's a beautiful thing. And I feel like, you know, even the fact that you're triggered this deeply, right? I think you need to understand like triggers in life, like your triggers show you what your values are. The fact that this is triggering you shows you what your values are and the things that matter to you. And so that makes you a beautiful person with a beautiful heart that wants the world to be better.
Thank you.
And I think the world will be better as long as we become more conscious of the things we've been through and what we need to do in order to heal. And even the way that you feel right now, so this is the last part that I was going to talk about, the limbic system, is the last part of it is your hippocampus. So your hippocampus is kind of like the timekeeper, and it's very deeply associated with memory. When you go through a traumatic experience, your body gets flooded with cortisol, and the presence of cortisol makes your hippocampus shut down, right? So your hippocampus goes offline when you're really stressed out or when you're in a traumatic situation. And because it's going offline, it's not storing memory correctly. So now later, years down the line, you could be in a completely new situation, but anything that reminds your body of that event triggers the same nervous system response. So right now, you're not being silenced. No one is telling you your voice doesn't matter. But the same injustice that you felt growing up is being triggered just because you thought about what's happening right now with Love Island and with Huda. So,
and you know what's so funny? Like, that's so true, because I'm also afraid of you telling me, I'm more afraid of you telling me that I'm saying too much than like comments. You know how like I don't care about other people's opinion, but like, no, it's just like I'm projecting. I assume that you would tell me that I'm talking too much, or like I'm saying something that will get me in trouble. That's one of my fears. I feel like, just like my mom always told me, your mouth will get you in trouble. Like constantly. She was like, your mouth.
If it does, it will also get you out of it.
I don't like how.
I don't think like, I think that's maybe I'm also going to do better to not trigger you that way, because maybe sometimes like you see my things. I think I have a very expressive face. So maybe you read my face and you feel like you shouldn't say something. But also like
we live in a place where there is no free speech. So like we could get trouble in some stuff. So I appreciate you telling me like, don't talk about this person and this person, because they can't sue you in this country. And we don't live in a place where there's free speech. So I understand that you're helping me, or not coming from a bad place, but for me, it triggers the same thing. You know what I mean? But I do want to also like, I like us doing episodes where it's like, okay, stress and trauma. Then we talk about trauma some more, and then beliefs, because I have a lot of belief systems that are also giving me trauma.
Yeah, no, I think traumatic experiences create beliefs that, as a result, that's why people act the way they do, right? Because you've been in such a dysregulated environment or such an unsafe environment, you have beliefs about love, about the world around you, about the way that you should act, the way people should treat you, that are a direct result of those experiences. And yeah, it's
do you think I'm traumatized, or do I have chronic stress?
No, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not here to like diagnose you either, but I think you're triggered. The way that I would describe this is right now, It's like you have a wound, and like something has pressed against that wound. And if you want,
but it was funny because like it was my own speech that did it.
Yeah, because it fired something inside you, right? And that's not a bad thing. I mean, the way that I like the summary that I had, trauma is a wounded nervous system. Your nervous system is wounded, and it's just now you speaking about it pressed against that wound, and it triggered something deep inside you. And noting on that, it's okay that you feel triggered because your triggers lead you to your healing. Now you know this is something you're going to keep working on. Every time you film this episode,
we started this podcast because of that. Because we wanted to like better ourselves. It's like, you remember when I went through that whole like jinn thing, the demonic attacks. Afterwards, I was so fearful of so many things. One of the first things I did was like trying to do like more of sports where like there is adrenaline. So I
adrenaline.
And I went and I started horse riding. And I remember like being so afraid, even though I've never been afraid of animals. I was just so afraid of falling. And I was like, you've never been afraid of anything. Like, why are you fearful now? And I worked on it. And I feel like with this whole podcast, one of my like deepest reasonings for it was that I wanted to like get over this fear of speech.
And you're doing it, girl. I'm proud of you. You're literally amazing. I love listening to you speak. And I'm not just saying that because we're recording or because of anything.
I just wish I could be like less angry and like less aggressive with it, because like it's like I also feel like that's why I told you I was like I want to breathe on these podcasts. And you know how like the episodes are like 1 hour and like we're paying for them, and like I can't just sit here and be like
But let me tell you, like if you watch yourself from episode 1 to now, you've already improved drastically on those things.
Thank you.
And also, I think it's so important to know it's beautiful that we have such different talking styles, because the way that I speak, some people might be like, oh, she's so pretentious and she's a know-it-all, and I don't resonate with people. And the way that you speak, you're direct, you're passionate, you're straightforward, you resonate with a lot of people.
Well, you know why I'm like that? Because I always had a time limit of like how much I could speak. So I had to like rush and like kind of be like da 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 da. You know, that's why I'm straight and I'm to the point and I'm honest and I get to the problem. Because like if I would speak a little bit more than I should, like I would get called names. It's like, oh, you're obsessed with things that don't matter. You're creating things. You're delusional. It's like there was a lot of gaslighting, and it's like, oh, you're depressed and you want to make us feel that way, and it's like, I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
The thing is, you are not your wounds. You are not those experiences. You are not what people have said to you. Yesterday, you said it to me.
I know that, but then when your body, this is the thing with trauma, yeah? Your body remembers it. Now your body is traumatized. Nothing has even happened now, and I was shaking because of things that I was saying or how I was saying them. I don't like my way of speech even when it's harsh for myself even. But like when I get in a place where I have something to say, it's just, again, it's like my motor system has memorized a version of things and I go back to that. So I have to break free from that. That's something that I need to work on.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you because obviously right now we just spoke about trauma, but on the next episode, we are going to talk about healing. There's so many different practices and things, and you know this, even things that you said to me yesterday, that can break you out of this response. One of the most powerful ways, like right now, because you feel anxious and you feel triggered, if you actually grab a pen and a paper and you start writing things down, it's going to calm your nervous system down because you're reactivating your prefrontal cortex, and it's going to calm you down.
No, I do that. I mean, like I've already learned so much, and one of the things that I do is like I pronunciate and I try to speak slower, and I use my hands to kind of like make sense of what's going on in my brain, and I look around to try to like almost make like a map of like what I'm saying or where I'm going with my points so that I can be precise and to the point. And when I do that, I've been told that I speak like a lawyer, and it's like, it's not even that serious. I should calm down.
Well, you don't need to calm down.
Sometimes like no matter what you do, it's not enough. You know what I mean? Like it's just like I lived with people who wanted to never change, and they're comfortable where they are at. And I don't like that. I don't want that for myself. And then when you're the only one who's at odds with the rest of the world, fingers will be constantly pointed at you. You know, that's why, like, look at all these prophets. Like anybody who was like righteous and they wanted to change for the better, they were crucified, like quite literally, like hunted down, like a witch hunt. So I feel like that has happened in like small dosages to a lot of people, and one of them was me. Even though, I mean, I don't want to say I was, yeah, but kind of.
But again, it's not like, I want to say this because I feel like you need to own up to this. It's like It's not your responsibility to fix those things or to change other people or to change the way the world is.
It just makes me upset when I like have like Vietnam flashbacks.
No, I wish I could hug you.
We should do another episode where we talk about more stuff, because I know you have some stuff and it's like belief systems.
I feel like, yeah, we're going to do another episode of belief, but I think like we can wrap this up here. And I think like the only thing that I wanted to add on to this when we talk about trauma is the different responses that people have, but there's fight, flight, fawn, and freeze. And I feel like a lot of people don't know about fawn, but even people pleasing is a nervous system response.
I do want to talk about this. Look, so with okay, so what it looks like scientifically for trauma, your amygdala goes into permanent threat detection. So you are constantly surveying or vacuuming for a threat, even when it's not there.
Yeah.
The hippocampus stores memories in fragmented and non-linear ways. So you might have two people who went through the same thing, but they remember things differently because portions of that memory have been completely wiped. So the events in your mind will not go from A to Z. They will be scattered all around because there's portions that have been deducted from the records. And the prefrontal cortex, your logical thinking, goes offline completely. So it's hard for you to come back to the moment. Like for me, like I don't know how to diagnose, but like let's say like right now I had like an episode, but I can regulate myself really easily. I know how to breathe and do this and that and like snap out of it. People who are going through intense traumas don't know how to do that. And they go almost in this like shell and their bodies lock in on themselves. The automatic nervous system becomes dysregulated. So these are two words, okay? So you either become hyper aroused, where you have anxiety, panic, and anger, or it's hypo aroused, where you become numb, frozen, and shut down completely. Now, I have both of them. I've reacted differently. Like I do get to a point where like mine goes to anger because I've just had enough. Or I do go to numbness. I hermit myself a lot. So if you hurt me, I will just disappear for a long time because I really don't want to have to deal with that. And not because I don't want to have to. And it's weird because like I will shut down people so easily and I would want to get away from them because I've realized that I can't change anyone. So I can only better myself. And I cannot take other people's responsibility. So I immediately try to shed them. That's why I detach very quickly. Because I've learned in order to keep myself safe and better myself and keep myself in a safe environment, I have to let go of those people because those people are constantly in a cycle of loop where they keep repeating those patterns of behavior that I'm trying to detach from. So that's why I practice detachment at all times, even with states of mind. So right now, I went into an episode with the speech that I was giving. There wasn't any external sources. It was just my memory or a Vietnam flashback. And I've learned how to regulate that by saying chants or breathing, taking a moment because my legs were shaking, right? So you have to learn ways to self-regulate, and it is your responsibility to learn those things and research into them and see exactly what it is that's causing that.
But as always, it isn't about having the perfect answer. It's about wondering, reaching, and remembering that what we seek is also seeking us. Thank you.